So for day 2 of tutorial week, I was going to cover how to use the motion editor a little bit. If you look down here at 3 buttons here, you have your clip editor, your motion editor, and your graph editor. Clip editor is just for viewing your video and previewing it. The motion editor and the graph editor are for actually doing your animation. I know that a lot of people don't use the motion editor because it's a little intimidating. So I thought I'd show you a little bit of tricks on how to do some of the stuff in here to make use of it, because this is about all I use. I don't touch the graph editor. So first I want to show the floating modification layer here. If you make a time selection, if you hold shift, you can either click once and twice to make a selection, or you can just click once and drag to make the selection. This is the area you're working on. It's called the floating modification layer. You can move it around and change its size. If you drag it to the edges here, you'll see it'll get these little spikes. That means that it's going infinitely in that direction. With all time selected, right now everything is selected. You'll be doing a change to everything at once. Here I'm only doing it within about a 2-second window. Any changes you do to this are going to be pretty stark. So like I just have some animations I have here running in the background. If you were to just say move somebody up within this window, well, you're doing it pretty quick. It's jumping up. You don't want something like that. You can do is use the fall offs. If you hold shift and roll your mouse wheel, you'll see these little arms come off. You can also, when you have your mouse over here, you see it's changed from the double change to just this little white arrow one. You can pull it off. Now you'll see that this change is smoother. It's not going to have that that jump. And how it changes is dependent on the type of the follow you use. So here let's sort of do a little motion here, and I'll show you how some of those are affected. So I'm going to make it so that everything after this point is going to be moved, and we're just going to actually let's move dash back here first. So move dash back here. And any change that you make, as you see here, it makes it orange. This means that this is a change that is not yet saved. It's floating above the animation. If I hit escape, it undoes that change. So with all of time selected, and actually, you know what, I'm going to do it just the pelvis here. There we go. Let's move dash back here, and we're going to say that at 4 seconds we want her to be forward. So we're going to do a transition here, and we're going to have her go forward. Now if you see, now you got her dashes, looks like she's flying forward here. This is right now set up for a linear transition. You can see that the line right here is perfectly flat. What you can do, and there's a couple different ways to do it, that's the if you press 1, it's linear. While this is selected, if you press 2, you'll see this will change. Now the curve has changed to a quick change and then fall off. If we preview this, you'll see that she goes fast and then starts to slow down and come to a stop. If you hit 3, it does the opposite. It does a slow start, and then it ramps up. And if you hit 4, you're going to get a little bit of both. It's going to ramp up slow, speed up, and then slow down towards the end to give you a nice, smooth transition. Now, there's uses for all types. Like for flight, you're probably going to want it to be perfectly straight like that, but for other motions, having that ability to ramp up like that is pretty useful. So let's make sure that's a linear movement here, and we'll hit enter to save that. So now that motion is saved. We can select other things, and it is saved on there. Next I wanted to show how to shift time a little bit. So let's say that dash is moved here, but actually this would probably be better on here. So we'll select dash running here, and so let's say that you want to have her run a little faster. Like that's not fast enough for you. You can make a selection here. Let's say we'll just select the whole thing here, and if you hold Alt, you can grab the end pieces, and it will actually allow you to shift how fast or how slow the animation is. If you just sort of do a regular click, it would just resize the window. But if we drag this down, say to 6 seconds, now you see she's running maybe a little too fast, but it's definitely sped up. We could also do the same thing and go the other way and you'll notice that she's now running a lot slower. The one problem with doing this, and you have to watch out for, is say that you selected a bit in here, like let's say from 4 to 6 here, just about. If you shift it, you're going to be pushing everything back. All this time is going to be moving to the right. If you shift it the other way, you're going to be moving it that way. You may not want to do that, especially if when things are timed. That's actually when you can use the fall offs here. They actually allow you to kind of limit where your time is being shifted. So if I were to drag this point right here now with Alt, you'll see that I'm just kind of shifting time within that little point window there. It's kind of like a rubber banding back and forth. So if I were to do this now, you'll notice that the first part will be slower, but then when it catches up this part, it'll be faster, and then it'll just go back to normal. None of time was moved. It'll allow, if you're careful on where you do it for retiming, even if you have like a single point selected right here, you can shift the time, but just make sure that you're not like compressing something too much. You might have to retime a little bit, but at least you're not getting things being shoved way off too far or mistiming something. Here. Oh yeah, so now I wanted to go over the procedurals here. Procedurals are all the little buttons over, all the little tools over here. There's quite a few of them, and many of them, their uses might seem a little confusing. So I wanted to kind of go over how some of these can be used. Just starting right from the top here. The default is to reset the model to its default position. So for Dash here, say I were to hit her with default, well, her default when I loaded her up was to have her just sitting right here in the middle. That's her default position. So if you need to return something to its original position, you can use that. It's, to me, not that too useful though. 0, half, and 1 are basically changing all body numbers, all animations to 0, 1 half, or 1. That can have some disturbing results. So here, 0 is going to be putting all the pieces to one point. It doesn't work well for the whole model. But say like you had some mouth movements here. So let's open up the like she had her mouth open. Well, or maybe not close, that looks strange. So open. If you were to go 0, it will return it back to the 0 value. That does come in handy, and 1 is going to be the opposite, putting everything up to max. Half, it has its uses, especially I've noticed with the eyes, because the models are set up to have the up and down to the 50 as their default. So if you have the eyes have some weird movement, you can return them to default just by doing half. The next 3, playhead, in, and out, are for setting up. It's going to be dependent on where certain things are in your selection. So if I select Dash here, and say I have to take 3 to 6 here. So what these do is in will make everything within this selection match whatever it was when it came in. So if you watch, as I increase it here, everything starts to have its value match up with where it came in. So it looks like she just freezes right here. Out is going to be the same thing, but on the opposite side of the layer. So here has her position, then suddenly jumps back there. Playhead will just be, does the same thing, but based on wherever you put the playhead. So if I put it right here, everything's going to start to drift towards where that playhead is. That has a lot of uses, especially if you, like at the end of a cycle here, you want to have it stop without having it suddenly jump to an old position. It allows for a little bit of smoother transition. Or if you're working on cycles, you can select a little bit and just tell it to go to the playhead. And these all should have it work where, say I go to this playhead, if I have the fall off, it will have it kind of round to that position, that where you had it locked. So the next 2 here, paste and drop, paste is exactly what you would think it is. Say like I had rainbow running here, and I wanted to copy all these samples here, so copy, and then wanted to say, let's get dash back here, the flying one. So I wanted to paste it here. Well, I could just go right ahead and do paste. Let me deselect the root there. Okay, so if I do paste, it's, oh, she's still gonna fly away. So, so the animation is gonna be pasted, but it's just a quick jump. You may not want to have it be like that. Maybe you want to only have it partially pasted. So if I grab that and do a little bit, you could actually paste part of the animation to it. So now you see, actually, she's kind of got a free fall looking thing going there. Now she's got part of the run and part of the flight all kind of mixed in. If I put a little bit more, it's about the same thing. That can come in handy for actually mixing some of the animations together, or if you just want to have just a little bit of motion instead. If otherwise, just doing Control V to paste, you're only doing 100% paste. The drop is if you made a change here. So like say we wanted her moved up here within this point. Drop basically starts to undo anything that was done to the modification layer. So while it's orange right now, still, drop will just start to undo any of those changes that you made. So if you say you made a change that was a bunch of changes that were too much, you could just back off on drop a little bit to kind of lessen the effect. Jitter and smooth are kind of opposites to each other. So say that we'll give dash here. I want to grab one that's part that's not moving here. So over here, if jitter is basically, and you have to have a certain amount of time selected, is going to cause just a little bit of noise to movement. So here, if I say wanted to, so for the farm, I wanted to add a little bit of like rotation. This is probably just going to look weird. I'm going to add some of the jitter, and you'll notice that now it's just added some just random movement to the limb. I did a little bit of this in the wind effects on how to add wind to the main. So while this may look strange, there are places where jitter does come in handy. Like say you had so the eyes here, and you wanted to kind of give it the that sad twittering iris. You can grab the up, down, and left, right iris, add just a teeny bit of jitter, and now you can add it'll add that little bit of noise to it. Smooth works in the opposite direction. So if you have a large, I'll grab some time here, and we'll say that the arm is to go up here and down here in just a triangle. That's not exactly a smooth motion. That's pretty sharp. Smooth will allow you to smooth that out a little bit. So if I add some smooth to this, you'll notice the more I add it, the more that those lines get curved. Now the motion's a little bit more realistic. So it's the opposite of jitter. Well, jitter adds spikes and valleys to the animation. This will smooth out any of those spikes there. Using a combination can give some nice effects. The next set here is stagger, hold, release, and steady. These have to do a little bit with the timing here. Best to grab here, flying dash here. Grab that again. So we had it so that she was within 1 and 4 that she was moving. So say that I'll select the middle here and just have it fade between these points. If you look on her motion here, you'll see the dots. Those are going to show her timing. So right now all the dots are nice evenly spaced from the back point here to the front point. And it's just showing just the time selection. That's why it kind of fades off, just like this is fading off. If you change the timing here, see, like we showed with the time changing, if I with alt grab it, you'll see that the time starts to compress at the later part, and then and extend where it's going to take longer. So let's say you wanted to add to hold, like at this midpoint, she slows down and then speeds up again. Hold will just do just that. It will make everything kind of drift towards that midpoint. So you'll see her come in, slow down, and then move forward. Basically saying that anything in the selection here, if I actually make a selection, will go and hold at that position. Not completely stop, but it will slow down to a certain point to give, and then go back to the normal speed. But this can come in handy for when you just want to do like a slower flight by and then speed up again. The release one here is the complete opposite. So if you do some of that, it will slow down in the beginning, speed up, and then slow down again. Steady, say that here we'll grab this bit and we'll say that we're going to add a hold here, so she slows down, then speeds up again, and then from 3 to here we'll do a release so that she speeds up and then slows down again. It's going to look a little strange, but you can see that the motion is nowhere smooth. She's moving around pretty quick here. Well, if I grab this selection here and hit it with steady, you'll notice that everything goes back to the way it was. That's because it went and smoothed out the motion so that all of it was perfectly smooth and in complete, is evenly timed. You see all the dots here are evenly spaced. The stagger here is a way to add a little bit of noise. This one's a little bit harder to tell, but it's for adding imperfections with if you have something that's like a perfect loop. So with running dash here, if I were to make this, let's go from again like this here. If you hit it with stagger, you'll see that it's making a little bit of change there, but not too much. What it's doing is it's retiming, not repositioning, but retiming everything in there. So let's hit it for like just a couple times. You'll notice that she starts getting a little bit of wonky there in the run. It's giving noise to the cycle to make it more realistic. So you could have somebody that's eating or lifting up something in a repeated motion. You could hit it with stagger so that it would allow the same motion to look different every time. So that can have quite a bit of uses, or at least save you the time of doing it yourself. The last 3 here are ramp, spline, and round. These can be a little bit more complicated to use. Ramp is pretty simple out of all of them here, where it will just say if you have this time to this time selected, ramp it. So anything that from this point to this point will just be made a straight line. So if I hit dash with the ramp on this one, you notice all the lines will slowly move up to that point and then continue. That's all it will do, is it just changes it to a nice linear flat line here. Spline actually makes use of bookmarks. This was one I just learned recently myself. It's kind of like a round, or not round, like a ramp, but allows you to pick some points. So here, if I were to hit it with spline, you'll notice it doesn't do anything. That's because we haven't set up any bookmarks yet. So say I put up a bookmark here, here, and we'll do it here too. Now, if I hit it with spline, you'll notice it actually does change. So here, it goes to this first bookmark, and then says, I will ramp to this point, then I'll ramp to this point, and then I'm going to it can go back to the normal motion from there. So this one would be take a little bit of playing around with to try to get some good use out of, but it allows you to actually do a little bit of taking advantage of bookmarks within the motion editor. I'll get rid of those. Round is like ramp. If you were to say round this bit, it'll look just the exact same as what ramp would have done. The difference with round is it allows you to take advantage of the fall-offs. If I extend those fall-offs, you'll notice that now this starts to get a nice smooth curve. So an example of this would be, say, let me load up a new dash here. This is round's one of my favorite tools. So we have dash here, fix the hair, and we'll say that she from just 5 here. I'm not going to do any fall offs. I want to make it so that she, like, her head, say her head moves a little like sideways like this. Choose her head, and yeah, that'll work. So now you see it's just a sharp change. Well, if I select the model here and I select this point of change here and I hit it with round, you can now make a smooth transition of the head from one point to another. If I extend the fall offs now, you'll get a smooth transition between them. If you make the wider the middle is, and the longer the fall offs are, it'll be a slow transition, a quick change, and then a slow fall off. You'll see that here. And these do have an effect on what transition type you have here. So right now these are linear. If I were to do a smooth, well, let's show linear here. I'll drop this down. You see, it's still pretty quick. So if I use 4 there, I'll try to extend here so you see it. It's gonna give that. It's gonna speed it up, slow it down, and give a nice smooth here. If you want to have it really drift off, you can. I think that was the 3. Yeah. So it'd be a quick fall off, and then it would just slowly drift off afterwards. Round can really come in handy if you want to try to make keyframes of sorts in the motion editor. Which is actually how I do it, selecting a bit of time, making some changes, and then using the round tool with hitting it with the round, and then playing with these with the fall offs and the time selection to get the effect that I'm looking for. The last thing I wanted to cover is this little drop down right here that most people really don't know what to do with. It contains transform, overwrite, and offset. So we're going to go back to the line dash here to show how that has an effect. So transform is going to be your default, and really should be about the one that you'll be on most of the time. But say that dash at this point, midway through their flight, we're going to have her turn. So let's grab that pelvis again. If I do just a turn of the motion, you'll notice that not only is her rotation changing, but her position as well. So she's actually going to look to kind of maybe awkwardly turn around these corners. Well, what if you don't want to actually have? What if you're just trying to turn her, not where she is? Well, an easy way to go and do that is to change it from transform to offset. Instead of transforming all the time, it's only doing the offset of such. So if you're changing rotation, you're only going to change rotation in this mode, which can come in handy. So well, here it's going to look a little strange having her rotate like that, but for camera movements and rotation, sometimes they can get a little bit awkward when you start trying to animate something you've already animated. Being able to tell it that you don't want to have it modify the position does come in handy. Now, overwrite is just like the name implies. It's going to take the selection and it's going to completely erase everything else. So if I were to select this point and say to rotate, instead of saying transform where it would rotate that entire selection, it's saying that you change the rotation here. So everything in there for the rotation should be changed to equal that. So you'll see her jump to that point. I never really use overwrite, but transform and offset are two that I do use. That's about all I can think to cover with the motion editor. It may be intimidating to most, but if you really start to play around with it and get to use it, you'll see that there's a lot of useful tools, a lot of things you can do in here that you might have to struggle with to do in the graph editor. And it's a little simpler interface, I think, to work with. But yeah, that's all for the motion editor. Tomorrow I'm going to try to cover some of how to do the depth of field in your videos to give a little bit of a more professional look. Otherwise, I hope that this helped, and hopefully you learned something about the motion editor.